WTIM.
Good morning. You're listening to WTIM, your information station, and our morning show brought to you by People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, and Landmark of Taylorville. I'm your host, Grayson Bauman, and joining us in this segment is Neil Hohenstein. Neil is the facilitator of the Christian County CEO program and much more. However, today we're talking Christian County CEO. Good morning, Neil. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well, Grayson. Thanks for having me.
And I'm glad to have you here. The last couple of months, we've had a lot of your students come in and be able to talk to them about not only their projects, about what they're learning. And now we've wrapped things up, obviously, for the school year this year. And I would love to start there because this was a really successful year for the Christian County CEO program and apparently a milestone year for the Christian County CEO program. You had a morning and afternoon class this go around. You had a record number of students. In your eyes and on your side of things, how did this year for the Christian County CEO program go?
Well, overall, we're really happy with it. So it was a milestone year. We just completed our 10th year, so that's a big deal. And we had our the biggest classes that we've had in CEO. So we had enough, and the school district was flexible enough with us that we had a morning and an afternoon class, and then we served 26 students. So we wrapped with the trade show on April 30th, and that really gives students a chance to show their wares and hone their chops on selling and producing goods and services and meeting folks within the community. So that really wrapped things up, from the personal business standpoint. And it was a huge success. We had hundreds of people. We had it over at St. Mary's School. They welcomed us with open arms, and it was a good venue for us this year, especially with the amount of students that we had. And then from there, the seniors, they're done the first week, so we're ready to be done. So we had some ending things. We had a really awesome dinner out at Bill Kennedy's and some phenomenal guest speakers there that just really sealed the deal, so to speak, with CEO about the experience and then how they can leverage what they've learned. And then we do a little fun too. We part of one of our tenants is we pay our way. So we actually had some money set aside, and we took a class trip. Kids get to decide a day trip. What are we doing? So this year we went to Six Flags, and we had enough money left in the kitty we went up to Top Golf for a little bit after that. So that really wrapped it up, and that was just a few weeks ago back in May. So yeah, we're happy. We feel the kids got a lot of value out of it. It wasn't easy. It wasn't an easy year. We do a lot of the traditional things the CEO is known for, but there were some successes with that, and there's a lot of complexities that come along with having two classes, from scheduling guest speakers to what does a class business look like? Do we integrate them together? Do we separate them out? And so we just kind of went with the flow, let the kids have a lot of autonomy in deciding what the class looked like with two classes this year.
With the two classes and having kind of a split group, morning and afternoon, for you, how did the classroom kind of look? So now I'm accustomed to these kids in the morning. Now I'm accustomed to these in the afternoon. How did we split up their responsibilities and things of that nature?
Well, we ran it as two, but under one umbrella of CEO. So, for example, all the class funds is, we pay our way. So from the class trip, that was something that they had funded themselves from the different business ventures that you've heard about. A couple classes did a couple ventures on their own that went to the same account that the morning class did. And then the scheduling of speakers, some speakers, they were only able to do one class or the other. And so from my end, we're still able to use several of the locations here within the county to serve class. So at one point, I think the AM class was meeting over at CTI, and then the PM class, we were driving to Pana over at PCH, and they have a wonderful facility there, and they're always welcome to having us as guests at the hospital.
So really it was just some kind of figuring out, all right, I've got this morning and afternoon class, but it was a lot of how do I get them the same content, but also maybe vary it a little bit based on what other folks can do.
Yeah, and we try to take into account when we're having visitors and going on tours, just the individuals within the class, things that make sense. And if they have ideas, people maybe they want to hear from the community, like we're incorporating that. So a lot of them got the same experience, but some of it was kind of coordinated in a fashion that it was more towards the PM class. Or, for example, we had a Pana student, and she has Uncle Chris is what we got to know him as. We spent a few phone calls and Zoom meetings with him, but he's an entrepreneur from down south. And so that one was just unique to the PM class. So really trying to make it fit with what we're trying to get across in CEO, but also the personalization that, they're getting a personalized experience both ways.
Did you feel by splitting up the classes this year, morning and afternoon, that you were able to get more of a focus on those kids at that time? Say if you had them all in the class at one time, did you feel splitting them up was able to allow for more one-on-one personal connections and being able to benefit them?
Yeah, ultimately, especially when it comes to the people, not just me, that are coming in, and at any one time, there's 100 people that are helping these kids succeed. Whether it's class speakers, I was just looking at the speakers and the tours. It is a community effort to show these kids what success looks like, and so having that part of it with 2 classes definitely was a help. But if we were to do that in one class, we would have had to make some cuts. There would have been some that just wouldn't have made it. And we have interviews every year to see where kids are at and their willingness to be in the class and what they expect to get out of it, and then that they'll be able to handle the workload that's associated with it. So we felt whenever we conducted the interviews last year that we wanted to everyone was made it. And so now what? Because we had 21 the year before, and that was a large class too, and there was some concerns on, okay, well, just the things you bring up, as in, can we keep the meaning of what this is and the personal interactions the same? And so that really helped with 2 classes. Otherwise, with one, it would have been totally different.
I was going to say 26 kids, even 5 more kids in a classroom. I mean, it's 5 more kids, 5 more personalities, 5 more people to care and worry for or help. So I think having those 26 total students, though, is a sign not only of the success and the buildup of the program over the years, but the kids themselves too. I met quite a few of them, whether it was the morning class, one time with the afternoon class. I mean, these kids are just miles ahead, really.
Yeah, they're rock stars, and that's some of the feedback we're getting from communities. And when they come back and talk to us, they feel that they've got an advantage, which is part of the goal. What we're doing, we want to give them an advantage when they go, that they've met people, they know networking, they know all the things that you've heard over the last year that they're working on. And when they come in here, they speak well, they're polite, so that's the entire package that we're trying to create with CEO.
And that was something I had to learn a little bit over this last year too, that it's not just the projects, the businesses, it's some of the soft skills too, the teamwork, the handshaking, just those things that kind of are becoming a lost art. But that is something that is focused on by the CEO program outside of just the businesses as well. And getting the networking too is a big deal there as well. The trade show wrapped things up, and that was a nice piece to kind of end things. We had the day trip and some other things too. But the CEO trade show this year, you mentioned hundreds of folks came out to it.
Right. Yeah. So at the end of the day, they're making the money, they're selling their products, their services, and they need to get, just like any other business, they need to get people in their stores, so to speak. So how do they market that? How do they get the word out? What are they using? They're leveraging CEO and our network, but they're also, they're mentors, the people we've been on tours with, but like they're close knit, the low hanging fruit, so to speak, their family and friends, their network. And then hopefully they've got something that's marketable that they can sell, and then they can turn a profit in. And then, of course, that's theirs to keep.
Yeah. And right now I'm thinking of Ben Walmsley's project with, I can't exactly remember the name of his candy company, but using his grandfather's recipes and putting those together. It was really kind of nice to see some of the kids use the time and all the effort that they were doing to not only focus on a legitimate business, but also something that was kind of a passion project for them too. When it came to the businesses and how you kind of decided this is something to hang your hat on and this is something to move forward with, was that largely a conversation that was had with you, or was that kind of, well, you picked it, let's see it and kind of go with it?
Yeah, the way we frame that is, we start thinking about that in August. And of course, in August, we're just getting underway and we're talking about the cultural things. We're spending the first couple of weeks in the classroom saying, what is net profit? What is an income statement? What is a balance sheet? So knowing the business terms, but also knowing how to shake hands and all of those things. So we're trying to get to a point where when they go out and do those things, that they're able to be successful, and then they know. But as far as their business, we get to thinking about that. And we really want them to go into Christmas, have the conversation with the family, and come back in January where we're going to start putting these things into motion. Now, it's not always perfect. And we have a couple kids change, and I'm completely fine with that. Just, they're realizing who they are as people, what kind of time commitment. I mean, at the end of the day, they're seniors in high school. There's a goalpost that's really close to them at that point. So how can you do that? But you want to make money. You want to do a good job with these things. So trying to balance all of those things, coming out of Christmas break, we really start focusing in on that personal business.
And thank you for explaining that to me, just because, from my end, I get to hear about them and talk to the kids and stuff like that. But it's nice to know not exactly, but close to, how that kind of transpired and how that kind of was put together. Right now, we're joined by Neil Hohenstein, facilitator of the Christian County CEO program here on the morning show. We'll come back around and we'll talk more either about wrapping up this last year or maybe what next year looks like for the Christian County CEO program. You're listening to WTIM, your information station, and our morning show brought to you by People's Bank and Trust and Landmark of Taylorville.
WTIM. Your information station, WTIM.
And we're back with more of the WTIM Morning Show here on your information station. The Morning Show is brought to you by People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, and Landmark of Taylorville. I'm your host, Grayson Bauman. Back around in this segment is Neil Hohenstein. Neil is the facilitator of the Christian County CEO program, and we're wrapping up the 24-25 school year. It was a record year for the Christian County CEO, and we want to touch on some more that happened. Take us through some of the tours and some of the businesses that the kids were able to get involved with, if you would.
Yeah, so we're out in the community, and the community support for our program is incredible. And I think the kids get a realization of just how much people are putting forward, and then the successful people, successful companies that are wanting to pay forward that. So that is a mindset, and that's things that they're learning. So as they're into their business ventures, that maybe they understand that to help other people be successful, they will be successful themselves. So we had a record amount of tours and speakers. Again, some of them spoke to both classes, some just one, but we had people that would come in and talk about personality profiles. That's one of the first things we do is we do personality profile tests. The idea is, how are you going to lead a team if you don't really know yourself? And so awareness is one of the biggest underlying things that we try to achieve in CEO. So, we had people, some people that we get every year, Adam and Billy speak every year. They're generally one of our first, and because they know what's going on, and we know that we're early in the process. We talked about Uncle Chris, but we also had the kids wanting to hear from some of the students that have been through the program. So Miley Sims and Mia Morlock came in and sat in on a class, and it turned into a really good discussion. We had some students that had passed through several years ago, but we zoomed in with Audrey Curtin. Of course, she's running her business and she's crushing it. But these kids, they were wanting to hear from them. That wasn't on the radar, and they said, well, what's Audrey? We'd love to hear from her. And so I gave her a call, and she's like, yeah, absolutely. So we zoomed in, so we're getting experiences now that we're able to use our 10 years of experience. We have people that were on the first class that are on the board. We have a couple of past students that are on the board, and they're adding value to our program. They know what it takes and the commitment. And so they're really, really good resources for us. So people that have been speaking for the entirety of 10 years, and then there's people that are new as well. So young and old businesses that make millions of dollars, and in some cases tens of millions of dollars. So we go out and tour like an Alstrom, but then we're doing some smaller businesses that just maybe a one-person thing or a two-person thing, and they could really kind of see themselves. It's kind of hard to put yourself in. You see Adam and Billy, and then you see, okay, well, look at this thing, and then it's hard to put yourself into that. The stories are great, and they're inspiring, and but when we do some of the smaller ones, they go, oh, you know what, I think that would be a good step for me. Yeah. So we're able to see from the speakers and a tour standpoint, but just going like Corteva, we just went south. We met with a couple of other CEO programs. We got together down just south. We're right around Litchfield last year. Now that's an early morning thing. And so, you talk about some of the complications with an afternoon and AM class. The PM class, we went to this thing, and it's 45 minutes. So we start at 7:30 and it's 45 minutes away. So the commitment that the kids are going to need to make in order to get to some of these tours and see some of these speakers.
They never missed, though. It felt like they never really, they want to do this. And you mentioned it, they want this. And that's so important. You put the onus on them, and then they respond to it properly. I think that's the biggest thing there as well. Another word you mentioned was awareness. We're trying to build up their awareness. What do you quite mean by that?
So figuring out who you are as a person. So gratitude being a part of that, but knowing what you're good at and what you're not good at. And so if you could start thinking about, okay, what am I good at? What are people telling me I'm good at? How can I leverage that into something that I like doing? And if you like doing it and you're good at it, odds are you're going to have some success at it. So trying to figure out exactly where you fit here, and locally, but you're going to want to know that when you go off to college or when you want to start your family. And of course, one of the big things with CEO, we show and demonstrate that this is a great place to raise a family, to run a business. And that's one of the things we're working on too, is just trying to, create these opportunities. And I think we've got some really good players in our community and in the county that these kids are seeing that. Some of them are on the way. Like, I got to get out of Taylorville, but no, maybe not. Let's take a look at that, because you can do the things that you want to do, and you can do them right here in Christian County. And
that's a big thing that a lot of high school seniors or high school students, I'm done. I'm done with my hometown. Yeah. I'm getting out. And so I appreciate you kind of explaining that for me. With less than a minute to go, Neil, there's one more thing I want to make sure we touch on. That is your annual report and where to find it.
So the annual report, and again, we pay for this ourselves. We fund it ourselves. We're going to get a couple hundred copies made. And basically it's just a recap of everything on the year. It's a marketing piece. And what it highlights is you'll see all the tours, all the speakers. We have some pictures. We have kind of a rundown from each of the students, who they are, their businesses. We have a list of our board members, the ones that make this thing go for the entire year. And so it's just a culmination of the work. And by the way, as we would have, the students are doing the work. We had a great student. We've been lucky over the years, and she created a great looking annual report.
It looks good from this end here. Neil Hohenstein, facilitator of the Christian County CEO program here on the morning show. Neil, I wish we had some more time to be able to dive into this. 20 minutes, just not enough. But Neil, thank you for your time here today. You're listening to WTIM, your information station.